as we've already seen in our programs, we need to be able to both read input in and print stuff out, or return values. I want to now spend a little bit more time on that. We show a very quick example of it earlier on, but I want to come back to that to be able to give you a sense of how you can control that. So let's start with output. I want to be able to print something to the monitor as I'm doing computation, not just at the end of a computation, but perhaps partway through that. And here we have a keyword called print that's going to do that for us. And I've got a simple little example here, which I'm going to run on my machine. I'm going to define x to have the value 1. I could just print x. So the keyword print followed by an open paren, followed by, in this case, a name x, followed by a closed paren, simply prints out that value on the screen. Kind of trivial in this case. But I want to show you some examples of how I could control the print a little bit differently. So I'm going to define x string to be the string x. And notice what I'm doing here. X is an int. str is going to actually cast it into or convert it into a string. That is the symbol x. And I'm going to give it a name. In this case, I've called it x underscore str. If I do that on my machine, I've now got a binding for x string. Now I can do printing, and printing here can take multiple arguments. You can see it on my slide. I'm going to print out a combination of this expression, that expression, a sequence of expressions, all separated by commas. Let's see what happens if I do that. So I'm going to do print of my favorite number is a comma to say I've got something, and then I'm going to give it x, and then I'm going to give it a period enclosed in double quotes, and then I'm going to give it something that says what's the actual value of x and x. Sequence of things. And if I print it, I get something pretty funky. It says my fav number is 1. Oh, but then there's a space before the period. And then it says x is equal to 1. What happened there? Well, what happened is that print is literally printing each element followed by a space. And in particular, x has a value that's going to show up separately from the period. On the other hand, if I give x as a string, it's simply going to put the two pieces together. And so I can do a second kind of print, which is I can say print my favorite number is, and then I'm going to add to that or concatenate x string, and then I'm going to add to that period, add to that the last part of the string x equals, and add to that x string. And if I print that out, I get something a little bit better. In fact, I blew it. I wanted to have a space between the period so that it would actually print it out as saying my favorite number is 1. So let's do that one more time. Print my favorite number is, and a space, concatenate x string with period and a space, concatenate that with x equals, with a space at the end, and concatenate all of that with x string. And I finally get what I wanted. What am I showing you here? In the case of print with multiple arguments, it will print each one of them spaced apart. In this case, I am concatenating the entire thing into one long string and then printing it out, and I can control the spacing around it. So this is going to give me a way to give out input, or rather to give out output to the machine, telling me what I've done as I control it. What about the other direction? I want to bring in input. And here I have another keyword called input, not surprisingly. And it takes a single argument, which is a string. And its behavior is it's going to print out whatever's inside of those quotes, that string. It's going to wait for me to type something in. When I hit enter, it's going to evaluate whatever I typed in and return that as the result of the input statement. Typically, I'm going to want to bind that to something, so I can bind it to a variable name, like text. And if I try this, I can say text equals input, and I'm going to simply say type something. Notice what it did. It just printed out, typed something. It's waiting for me to do something. And I can say foo. What did I do? I bound that to the name text. If I look at text, there it is. So if I wanted to really be annoying about it, I could then say print 5 times text. And there it is. Now maybe you're looking at it and saying, wait a minute, why are the double quotes there? Because I typed them in. Input simply expects everything to be a string. So I could do the same thing. I could say text equals input type something. Again, it's waiting for it. In this case, I'm simply going to write in the string bar. And what's text? It's just bar. And in fact, if I say what's the type of text, it says it's a string. So if I'm going to type something in, it's automatically going to read it in as if it's a string. But that says if I wanted to get a number in, I need to cast it. And that's what this last example does down here. Input, even if I type in a number, is going to interpret it as a string of the characters of the number. And so I need to turn it into an int before I actually use it.